Mate, did we watch a thing this week?
Yeah, we did.
Hey, it's your boy Billy, and
You're still maintaining that you're people's boy,
I'm
then?
people's boy.
Okay.
I am the people's boy.
I don't like the sound. Okay, anyway. I'm Topher, and it's a pleasure to be here with our boy Billy.
It's always a pleasure when your boy Billy's with you. How you doing, buddy?
Well, we're not having a very good day, are we?
Oh, mate, I haven't been having a very good week. And you've just been on leave for, 4 days?
In traversing the country.
In Melbs.
Yeah. Vibey Melbourne.
How was that?
As it is
Eat some
known.
good food?
I ate some pretty handy food,
Yeah.
just quietly.
Did you get to the pictures at all?
Didn't go to the movies.
No, but you didn't need to, because this week we're doing a classic.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
Little throwback.
Because the last classic that we would have done would have been Too Fast, Too Furious. What was the last one we did?
Have we done one since Space Odyssey?
No, that would have been it, which is why it brings us to my turn.
Of course. So it's a film that one of us hasn't seen, in this case, me.
And I love, and I chose 1951's Strangers on a Train, Hitchcock classic. Now, correct me if I'm remembering this wrong. Have you told me that you're not a Hitchcock fan?
So I was thinking about how to explaining this just yesterday. I was like,
it was you, though. I'm not remembering.
that's
wrong.
true. For me, I have a similar relationship with Hitchcock than I do with the band Radiohead. So music fans love Radiohead.
As all decent people should.
They are held in genuine esteem.
Tom York is a brilliant songwriter, and yeah, okay.
Not my brand of whiskey.
Okay.
And I don't, if people ask me about Radiohead, I don't say, no, I think they suck. Because even though I don't like them, there's too many people whose opinions I value who think that they're the bee's knees to go, they suck. They mustn't. They can't. They just don't do it for me.
Right. So you can appreciate the art of it. It's just not your style.
Yeah, but when I hear Tom York sing, I'm like, well, now I want to kill myself as well. So
pull your socks up, Tom.
So I leave Radiohead to the Radiohead fans. Hitchcock, I mean, it's Alfred goddamn Hitchcock.
The dude knew how to make a film.
And yet doesn't really do it for me.
Wow. And so how much, what is your Hitchcock knowledge? I'm assuming you've seen...
I reckon I've seen 5 or 6 Hitchcock films.
Okay, so that would be what, like Psycho, Rear Window?
It is Psycho, Birds, Dial M for Murder, which I do love.
Yeah.
South by Southwest, which I like.
Yeah.
Don't love it, but I liked it. Strangers on a Train. And that might be it.
Oh, man, you've got some gaps that you need filled then.
Do you want to hang on? You want to put that another way?
Rephrase that. You got some holes that you need filled.
Yeah, it's a point of shame that I haven't seen Vertigo, but I just don't get excited about Hitchcock.
Well, and that has me nervous for this episode then, because I thought I was picking a genuine classic. Then I remembered that you don't like Hitchcock, and I'm like, I bet he didn't like this movie. So let's get right into it. Did you like this movie?
I didn't dislike it.
Yeah. So we're off to a flying start. Okay. That's not
Hey,
terrible.
could be worse. Could be Sphere.
Well, let's get into it then. Strangers on a Train, as we said, made by Alfred Hitchcock. It's based on the novel that was written only a year earlier by Patricia Highsmith, who also gave the world Talented Mr. Ripley.
Right.
Yep. He purchased the rights for the book for only $7,000. He purposefully kept
probably a fair bit, though.
Well, he kept his name out of the dealings to keep it so low. Apparently, she was pissed because if she knew it was Hitchcock, she would have.
Cha-ching.
Exactly. And it went through a ton of different rewrites. Credited as a writer is Raymond Chandler, famous, mystery novelist, who actually had nothing to do with the final write of this film. Him and Hitchcock did nothing but argue and disagree about the story and the dialogue, so his edit had nothing to do with the final. So, written by Whitfield Cook and starring Farley Granger, Ruth Roman, and Robert Walker. So, what's it about, Toph?
So, old mate, Guy, who's a young, handsome, up-and-coming person in society, also a gun tennis player, he meets this off-tap dickhead on a train who tells him about an idea he's had for offing people by which if you've got someone you want killed and I've got someone I want killed, we do each other's dirty work because then you'll have an alibi for where you were at the time and there'll be no motive.
No link to the murder. And
we'll both be rid of these people and we'll both get away with it. And Guy's like, you're a fucking weirdo. I'm out. And it is when Guy says, you're a fucking weirdo, I'm out, that we get our obligatory Hitchcock cameo.
It is. Which 11 minutes into the film.
And it's about as subtle and well worked into a film than Stan Lee is in MCU movies. It's like, stop the movie. Alfred's getting on a train.
Of all of the Hitchcock cameos, this is the most awkward.
Not a great one, is it?
I don't know why they decided he'd be carrying a giant double bass as well, because he's already a big enough dude. It's like he barely seems to fit through the door as it is. So they
happily just looks like a viola when he's doing it.
It's literally probably like a 10-15 second shot of him just trying to get onto a train.
It's not his best, is it?
It isn't the best. It's not the best. Well, one of the things I like the most about this film, like, I'm a very big fan of this film. I think the plot is great. I'm a fan of the dialogue. I think it's shot extraordinarily well, as most Hitchcock films are. I think, like, I watched this time for the first time, I think, in glorious HD. And I mean, God, it must have been close to 50 episodes now when we revisited Casablanca, which I hadn't seen at the time. And we spoke then about the soft focus and the blur and how even in HD, it had this very old look to it. I know that is an older film than Strangers on a Train, but this was such a crisp, clean image through the whole film. You could forget that this is a 60-year-old film. You could watch this film today and think like that it was just filmed in black and white stylistically as a choice. It's
a great example of a certain type of lighting that was happening at a certain time in filmmaking. The angle, specifically here, the angle of the key light and where the shadow of a nose falls is really consistent scene to scene. And this was a very tried and tested way of lighting people because it was reasonably flattering, yet you could still do a bit of dramatic work because you did have fall off on one side of the face. So it's a great example of how films were lit at a certain point in time.
Yeah, but there is some great dramatic lighting as well too. Like there's that scene where Bruno and Guy, where Bruno first tells Guy, I've done the murder, and they kind of back into that alley together, and there's the shadow of the light through the gate that almost looks like prison bars on their face. Or the other great, that brilliant tense scene where Bruno has dropped the lighter and he's down in the sewer trying to get it. And just the way that the light falls on his hand and on the lighter, I just thought it was exceptionally well done.
My favourite shot in the entire film is when Bruno's just kind of stalking Guy around Washington, D.C.
Yes.
And there's a wide shot of Bruno in front of some columns at, I actually don't know the name of the building. Someone will. And he's basically he's small in the frame, but basically silhouetted against the background, which is lighter than him, and it is a shit hot shot. It's brilliant.
I mean, Hitchcock, he knew lighting, he knew cinematography, and he knew set pieces. So the book was actually set much further south. The book was set around the Florida region, and it was Hitchcock who changed the setting to that kind of northeast corridor. And I think he did that because stylistically, that was just his vision for the landscape. And I just think it works so well in this film.
Now, you said before you really like the dialogue in the film. I bump on the dialogue.
Yeah.
Just because it's a very, and this is something that can work. Like, not all films need natural dialogue.
Yeah.
By no means. But in this film, you have things like after Bruno was told, Guy, all right, well, I've murdered your one.
Yeah.
And Guy says, you crazy fool. It's like, people don't talk like that.
They don't, but I think that's a sign of the time. Like, how many films from pre-1965 even would you say have what you'd consider natural dialogue?
See, I do totally agree with that. But comparing, like you brought up Casablanca before, Casablanca's not natural dialogue, but it's really theatrical and engaging, I find.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I just find a bit more...
I wonder if that's to do with the fact that Casablanca was originally a play written for the stage.
Could well be.
Yeah, because, I mean, very rarely do you see a film from this kind of period where the dialogue isn't kind of hammy.
Oh, yeah,
almost. Yeah.
Totally.
And I think for me what it is that makes the dialogue work is the acting. I think the acting in this film is exceptional. I think both Guy and Bruno are so wonderfully cast, and they were actually cast by accident. Hitchcock was forced to go with people that the studio already had, and he's actually, he came out later saying this was the exact right thing to do, because these actors, he said that he was able to save 20 minutes of reel because they were able to be so expressive with their faces that he needed less exposition. And I think that's definitely true. How did you feel about the acting in the film?
I really liked Guy.
Yeah.
Bruno, in one way, it totally works for me because I find him just stunningly unlikable, which is the point, of course. And Hitchcock has this in his kit bag where he can make someone who's definitely a bad guy, but they also totally draw you in.
Yeah, it's that kind of charming, dapper.
Yes, Dial for Murder's prime example of that.
Yeah.
Whereas Bruno, I'm just like, yuck, get off my screen.
Just a bit too creepy for you.
And of course, you can tell that he's a bad egg and clearly a criminal from that time he gets, there's a scene where he gets on a bus and there's like two people on this bus. Every other seat is empty. And he sits next to someone. I'm like, fuck you, Bruno. That is a dick move. Have you ever been on you're on a bus, it's basically empty. Someone gets on and you just know they're sitting next to you. And you're like, why?
You know what's worse? Cinemas. Have you ever been in a virtually empty cinema and someone takes the seat next to you? Or like, it's so strange. It's like, at least pick a different row.
And then do you move?
I know. And then you're that scummy dude who takes your shoes off in cinemas.
I haven't done that in a long time.
You promise?
I promise.
Good, because you shouldn't.
Although we're coming into summer.
That's the worst time to do it, you sweaty pig.
I do only do that in empty cinemas. Let me be clear. I do not go to, opening night of Star Wars and like, getting rid of these bad boys. Get some of this up, yeah.
I'm glad for that.
And by empty, I mean if we were going, I'd do it. But other people, I wouldn't do it too.
But I think that's the point. Like, there's never supposed to be a question that Bruno is insane. From the very first moment he gets on the train.
That shit.
And Guy kind of engages in conversation with him, but several times is like, mate, stop talking.
Yeah, he's like politely. Yeah, I love Guy in those scenes. It's a perfect balance of politeness and fuck off.
And that's the thing. I think that's where the story really gets going, is that Guy is just kind of trying to be polite. He's trying to brush him off, just thinking, well, this guy's not serious. But you never know who's serious. You never.
People are very strange these days.
People are very strange these days.
Said the poet Tommy Wiseau. My best on ground, though, of characters in the film, Barbara.
Little Babs.
Love Babs.
With her Coke bottle glasses.
Exactly. That is the younger sister of the woman that Guy is now with. And Anne's she's not a nothing character, but her sister, Babs. What a gun. Absolute gun. We need a spin-off film of Barbara.
Babs on a train.
And one thing about Anne, though, she's Sherlock Holmes level perceptive. When she sees Bruno being a bit of a creeper and something about glasses, and she just puts the whole thing together.
I know.
I was like, whoa.
She's basically Batman.
And Anne's a gun. I said she's a bit of a nothing character, and for a lot of the time she is. But in that scene, it's like, holy shit. Anne's amazing.
But that is one thing I like about this film and about Hitchcock in general, is that the women could be utilized far less in, for this time period. It's not like she's the hero, but she actually plays quite a substantial part in the story.
Yeah, Anne could very easily just be this kind of vapid background.
Which in a lot of movies from that era, she would be, or she would just be a romantic lead.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And then she does kind of join the fray as such.
Yeah.
In the film.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, going back to what I said about Anne being a bit nothing, I'd say I would kind of split her screen time into two halves. Yeah. If the first half she is kind of a bit, she's just like, oh yes, there's a very attractive 1950s actress. Yeah. Second half of her time in the film, she is Batman.
And I think a lot of that is to do with the runtime as well. This is a nice, tight hour 40 film.
Yep.
I think if they wanted to expand on her character, they could in that period.
But it doesn't feel like a short film. Like,
It doesn't feel short.
That you don't feel shortchanged.
No.
Like story-wise.
Seekers, have you heard about the remake of this? You know who's doing this?
Nope.
Oh, mate. Fincher.
Fincher's been attached to a lot of things over the years. Okay, this is weird and great. The opening shots of feet getting out of cars going into the station.
Yep.
And there's these kind of tracking shots and everything, which are pretty cool, but at that point in time, the size of cameras and everything, you could only do so much.
Yep.
I was watching those opening scenes going, Fincher would direct the fuck out of this.
Well, Fincher, I mean, it has been put on hold, but it was...
As has everything of Fincher of the last decade.
Well, it was 3 years ago. It was after Gone Girl, and it's effectively the Gone Girl team. Gillian Flynn, who wrote Gone Girl, who was attached to write, Fincher to direct, and Affleck to star. So it has been put on hold.
Do you know who Affleck would have been?
Yeah, that's what I've been wondering. I don't know whether I'm assuming that he would be Guy.
Same. A similar type character in terms of the politics and pleased with himself thing that he was in State of Play.
Oh, okay, I haven't seen that.
State of Play's not bad. It's a remake of an English film or TV series, I'm not sure.
Right, okay.
I quite liked it, actually.
I mean, I think a remake of this film could be exceptional. Like, it's a storyline that has kind of been toyed with lots of times. Like, did you see Horrible Bosses a couple of years ago?
No.
That was kind of an adaptation of this in a similar sort of way. But yeah, I think a remake could be done very well, and Fincher would rock it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Best guard dog ever. You done messed up, dog. When Guy enters the house of Bruno's family,
yeah,
which he has a key, doesn't need to break in, he's got a key.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like, banana peel here, there's a guard dog. Happily, it's about as scary as if I broke into your house and ran into your dog.
Hero would just start licking your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shocking guard dog.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mentioned earlier that Guy is a tennis player of some regard. I appreciate Guy's net game. Following the serve in on grass surfaces is something of a lost art. But Guy's got game.
I know nothing about tennis, but I very much enjoy the tennis scenes in this film.
Ooh, strong volleyer. If I was a tennis fan of the time, I would have been Team Guy for sure.
They actually shot those sequences at a real, not Wimbledon, but like quite an established tennis thing.
Yep.
The Open. It was some kind of tennis thing.
Well, you have several Opens.
Right. The Open. It was one of those.
I don't think there's a club that's called the Open.
And so that
in fact, tennis clubs, particularly at the time, were probably anything but open.
That's true. Yes.
They were like, are you loaded white and male? Because if you don't tick every one of those boxes, fuck off. There's the door.
That was actually the first sequence they filmed. Was that, which is odd for Hitchcock, because I know that sometimes traditionally he has shot entirely in sequence.
Right.
This film was not like that. But that shot looking at the crowd, and the entire crowd is almost comically following the ball left and right, and you just have Bruno just sitting there staring, like shots like that.
What I could have done without that, because that shot pushes in.
It does.
As we're on it. Which
it does.
Personally, I could have done without. I thought, it's clear enough.
A zooming camera is a bad camera.
Ridley Scott likes a zoom.
Yeah.
You remember a few weeks ago when I rewatched Gladiator for the first time in ages?
Is there a zoom in Gladiator?
There's heaps of zooms in Gladiator.
Wow, I've got to rewatch that. Is he like JJ with his lens flares?
Pretty much.
Wow, that's a lot of zooms. I'm just picturing like multiple zooms in the same shot now. Wow.
Do you remember that document that I wrote up once for those new camera people?
Yeah.
I was like, there's a time and a place for zooms. It's called never.
Yeah. It's literally one of the first things you learn. It is one of those shots that really is... That shot would never happen in a film today. The simple composition of the people looking left and right following the ball.
Such a good shot.
It's just brilliant. I mean, there are some great shots in this film. What did you think about the murder of Miriam? That whole sequence where a lot of the shot is shown in the reflection of her glasses on the ground.
Yeah, it is a funny thing with with Hitchcock, of course, because it deals with crime so much and violence, and yet doesn't actually tend to show
very
too
rarely.
much.
Yeah.
Strangers on a Train had a G rating, didn't it?
I'm actually not familiar with the rating, but given my watch of it today, I wouldn't be surprised.
Because the content is very grown up.
Yeah.
But he doesn't show, he's in no way gratuitous.
Yeah.
Which is nice. I like it.
Yeah.
It's not just, it relies on zero shock value.
Speaking of ratings, getting totally off track, did you hear the news today about Deadpool 2?
No.
Re-releasing it for Christmas as a PG film. It's called Once Upon a Deadpool. They've filmed a bunch of new sequences to reframe it as like a Princess Bride knockoff. So they've got Fred Savage like laying in bed, and Deadpool comes in to read him the story of Deadpool 2. And they've just cut all the violence, all the language, and yet apparently it's only 3 minutes shorter. So I don't know how much extra footage they've added, and I don't know how they're going to make it make sense, but it is coming to cinemas in December.
Oh man, I'm really curious.
I think this has to be the first time they've done that since Saturday Night Fever.
I don't remember the cinema release of Saturday Night Fever too well.
Well, Saturday Night Fever, it's got drugs, it's got quite a heavy rape scene.
I haven't seen Saturday Night Fever.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not good. But yeah, they famously recut it into a PG and re-released it in cinemas.
Right.
Yeah, I think they made like an extra 10 mil or something from the re-release.
Good for them. There's some fairly average police officer work in this film.
Oh, there really is.
Specifically, I'm thinking at the this happens at sort of in the climax at the theme park.
Carnival, yeah.
Like the cops have this guy clearly surrounded.
Yes.
And yet when he makes a bit of a run for it in the direction of where there's more police officers, he's not getting away.
Yeah.
And this guy just unloads on him.
I know. And then they shoot and kill the carousel worker. And it's like, oh, well, like no one even checks on that guy.
Shocking effort.
And then they let the other carnival worker crawl under the carousel to turn it off. And they're like, oh, don't go. Oh, no, just let him go.
Right.
Let him go.
He's an absolute hero. I love that guy. When they're looking at this carousel going and it's out of control and they're like, what are we going to do? And this guy just like strolls up and goes, I'll handle it. And this guy's like 117 years old.
He's like an old janitor. And that was a real stunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assumed it. I was like, I don't know if there's another way to do this.
Exactly. So the carousel was not spinning that fast.
You can tell from when he's in fast forward.
Yes, there's that one shot when he comes out from underneath to turn the lever, and you're like, that's pretty Benny Hill right there. But apparently it was really quite dangerous even as it was.
Well, there is something about that sequence I hate though.
What's that?
When Guy's hanging on and Bruno's kicking his hands.
Yeah.
One good kick would break his fingers and he'd be done for. And yet this just goes on and on and on of Bruno going, whack, whack, whack. Like clearly not making contact.
But they're going really fast. Might be hard to make contact.
Well, then why is Guy like, ooh, ow, yeah. And it's about that convincing, to be honest.
No, well, because maybe he just had a burrito and he can feel it burning the other end. And he's like, doesn't happen to you?
I think I can handle my spices better than you. Oh, another bit of stunning police work. At the end, when like Bruno's crushed by this thing and Guy's like, I want to go through his pockets to get the
lighter.
And the police officer's like, no. Besides, he says he doesn't have it.
I know.
Really, copper?
Well,
he says he doesn't have it, so don't bother.
And then he does have it, so that...
Well, then why are they even investigating? Guy said he didn't do it.
Well, that's and then he does have it, so immediately, case closed. Case closed. He does have it in his hand. Case closed.
And like, we know that Guy is innocent of the crime, although he's guilty of, like, obstruction of justice and things, but he is innocent of the crime. Yeah. And they're like, okay, yeah, over. Like, that doesn't, like, we know he's innocent, but that doesn't clear him.
No.
But the cop's like, oh yeah, donut time.
The cops are terrible. It's like when Guy has his alibi, old mate from the train who was sloshed. Yep. And I don't know, I'm sitting there going, I still think that's an alibi.
It's still pretty sound.
It's pretty sound.
Like, Guy knew that he was on the train. He knew the guy's
name. He knew he was on the train. He knew where he had just been because he was telling him about some speech he made. Like, So what if he doesn't? Like, I don't know. Is that not an alibi?
It would appear anyway the guy is still going to live with something of a life sentence from this whole ordeal, which is that he's going to be a dick to everyone for the rest of time.
Yeah. Final
scene of the film. A guy talks to him on a train.
Oh, so you saw that cut. I was just about to ask which cut of the film you saw.
Okay, I didn't know that this was a thing.
We'll continue with what you're saying.
Right, so this guy's like, hey, aren't you that tennis player? And guy goes to say, well, yes, I am. And instead goes, I'm going to change seats.
Yeah.
Eat a dick.
Suck a fat one, minister. He's a man of God.
Was he?
Yeah.
I didn't pick that up.
He's got the little collar on.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And he's like, bog off back to your church, mate. I don't want to talk to you.
So now he's rude and probably a presumed Satanist.
Yeah, so that is what is known as the American cut.
Okay.
Which the other version, the British cut, ends at the carnival before he talks on the phone and before they're on the train.
Okay.
And that is the version that Hitchcock wanted and has advocated for.
Okay.
And it was the studio who said, no, we'll add this shot on the train.
Interesting, because as we were talking about it just now, I was thinking, you don't need that scene.
No, you don't. And so Hitchcock hated that scene. But it's weird. Even though they call it the British cut and the American cut, it's not like they actually showed differently. The British one was just the original one, and then the American one is just what has become
the widespread distribution.
Yeah.
Well, I'm with old Alfredo, as he's known to his friends. True story.
Really?
No. Can't back that up.
All right. So are we at the end?
Yeah, I think so.
Moment of truth. What are you scoring it?
So as the film went on, I started to like it more and more.
Yeah.
Particularly the sequence where Guy is actually playing the tennis match and there is kind of this ticking clock element.
Where it's cutting between the tennis match and the lighter. And brilliant editing.
I like that part of the film.
Yeah.
All in all, in my kind of Hitchcock, Radiohead
it's just not
kind of way, it just doesn't do it for me.
But you can appreciate the art of it. You look at the cinematography,
the filmmaking itself. Absolutely. Can't help but
the creation of tension in the film and the creation of character, I think. Like, from that first scene on the train, you know who Guy and Bruno are. And I feel like they're fairly well fleshed out characters.
So I'm a 6 out of 10. But if someone came to me and said, should I watch Strangers on a Train? I'd say, absolutely, you'll probably like it. And just not tell them that I don't particularly. Because of this weird thing I have with Hitchcock films.
I think that 6 is the highest you've ever scored one of my throwbacks.
We're coming off a pretty low base.
We've had some classics, mate. Spirited Away, I think you gave a 6.
Was that a 6 or a 7?
I think that was a 6 because I remember being shocked.
Okay.
Princess Mononoke, I believe, was a 6.
Both of those would be strong 6s, not weak 6s.
Sphere, shockingly, less than 5, if I remember correctly.
Because it's just god-awful.
John Carter.
Also not a classic.
John Carter,
not a classic.
Less than 5.
Also not a classic.
Fuck you. I will never be happy until we get John Carter 2. You hear that, wife and children?
You're never going to be happy.
And now Strangers on a Train, 6. I genuinely think that's the highest you've scored one of my throwbacks.
Well, it's a positive review.
Well, I'm just going to have to shit all over your next throwback.
All right.
It's going to be The Godfather,
yes.
isn't it? All right. Well, I'm an 8 out of 10. I love this film. I think it's really, really well made. I think, I am a Hitchcock fan, and as far as Hitchcock goes, I think this would be in the top 5 for me.
I don't know what it is. Because I can admire...
I know what it is.
I know
what it is.
What is it?
You hate fun. You hate life.
Well, that's true. Like with other Hitchcock films, I can admire the filmmaking and for some weird reason, just don't enjoy it.
Well, I appreciate that you took the time to watch it.
I'm happy I did.
I'm glad you did.
I'm happy I did.
What are we getting to next week?
Well, we've got a bit of we've got a decision on our hands.
Yeah, we do.
We can decide live on mic here.
Let's do it.
We've got, my understanding is that we get Boy Erased, the one where Russell Crowe and Nicole Kidman send off their son to pray the gay away. We've got Suspiria and we've got Girl in the Spider's Web.
All right.
I think maybe I'd stump for Suspiria.
You want Suspiria?
Yeah.
I am shocked by that. That was going to be my choice as well. And I was like, Topher's never going to want to see Suspiria. You want to see that over Girl in the Spider's Web?
Oh, I already have a set against Girl in the Spider's Web
because it's not Larson and it's not Fincher and it's not...
Yes.
Okay, wow, I was sure you were going to want to do that one. Okay, yeah, I'm keen for Suspiria. This is one that I've been excited about for a long time. Have you seen the original?
I have not.
I didn't think you would, being not a horror fan. You know that it's one of the classic horrors.
You know, I've only ever heard that since this remake came around. I don't feel like anyone cared that much about Suspiria.
Really?
Until this one came around.
Oh, maybe in certain communities, maybe widely. You're correct, but I think certainly in the horror community, it's a mainstay. I first saw it probably about 3 years ago, which I think was before I heard about the remake. I actually know very little about the remake. I haven't seen any trailers. Is this the one with Tilda Swinton playing an old man?
Yeah, she plays 3 or 4 characters in it.
Really?
And it was I remember it was being like, oh, really? When I heard that the director of Call Me By Your Name, his follow-up was going to be Suspiria, I was like,
yeah.
That's not where your mind necessarily jumps to.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, that's interesting.
And then Tilda Swinton. Where do you stand on the old T-Swizz?
Oh, I think Tilda's a gun.
Yeah. I think she's a weirdo, but I think she can bloody well act.
Yeah. And she may in fact be Tom York. You seen a picture of them next to each other? And have you ever seen them in the same room?
I've never seen them in the same room.
Tilda is Tom.
I've also never seen
actually, and Tom York did the music for Suspiria.
Really?
Or did he? Tilda's already doing every other job. Just throw a piano at her. Not literally.
That's what I was picturing.
Like Looney Tunes style.
Yeah. I was thinking like the Witch and the Wizard of Oz, just one little shoe sticking out under a piano.
Yep. So Tilda, half the roles in the film, and I'm calling it also the score.
All right, I'm really excited. I did not think in a million years you'd be keen on Suspiria. Well, in the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do that at wewatchedathing.com or wewatchedathing@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all under the handle @wewatchedathing. If you want to help support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/wewatchedathing. Throw us a few dollars, give us your cash, we can buy some sandwiches. And in the meantime, go watch a movie.
See ya. You can do better than that.
More energy? I don't know where I'm going with this. Cut that.